Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 has a bunch of final mysteries I wanted to talk about and solve today, like what is the deal with the new Huggy Wuggy? What are Kissy and Poppy going to do in the chapter? And I even think I finally solved the true identity of the mystery character in Chapter 3. So starting off with Huggy Wuggy's return, if you haven't watched the trailer, for a split second we actually get to see an extremely deformed version of Huggy Wuggy running fastly towards the player, but this time he looks super demented and has a ton of new features like thicker teeth, bird-like feet, and is much larger than the original one we see in Chapter 1. So what happened? Well, I've seen a lot of theories saying this is some sort of hallucination and this Huggy isn't actually real, to which I say they would kind of be right. You see, we already know for a fact that the red gas we see inside of the factory was used in order to put all of the children to sleep inside of Home Sweet Home, so that way the employees didn't have to deal with them at the end of the day. However, this gas in question wasn't perfect and had some extremely harmful known side effects. Like, as portrayed in the Smiling Critters cartoon, the kids were seemingly addicted to the red gas since, of course, it was the only way they were able to sleep. And perhaps most importantly, in some old documents and videos from the Chapter 3 A or G, multiple cases were being reported of children inhaling this red gas and having extreme nightmares. And so to me, I think this scene is what happens after we inhale the red gas and isn't exactly a hallucination, rather that it is a super dark nightmare of Huggy, and this actually makes a lot of psychological sense. Because while Huggy himself, the focal point, is extremely detailed and dark, if you look around him, all the rooms are completely blacked out and the paintings on the sides have no detail. Likely because when remembering something during the day or while dreaming, you usually only remember the important pieces and the brain fills in the rest, naturally losing detail in the process. So in the same way you could remember something your friend said to you yesterday but not recall smaller details like the color of their shirt, specific non-essential details during this nightmare like the pictures on the walls of Home Sweet Home before the sequence would naturally be left blank, while the Huggy from Chapter 1 he was afraid of would be way more dramatic, contingent to the horror he felt seeing him in Chapter 1, seemingly giving the player literal trauma. And we know this for a fact because just visually, the way Huggy wraps his arm around the sides of the walls and chases us is almost one-to-one exactly how Huggy Wuggy looks coming after us in the first chase scene. Meaning this is the player reliving that horrifying moment in a dramatic way as a nightmare, which first off is really neat because they are giving the player some form of character development. But second off, if this is some sort of nightmare or PTSD, this must mean this scene happens after we breathe in the red gas and get put to sleep. And this likely could be some type of cutscene or playable dream that happens after we breathe in the gas with no gas mask, in order to explain to new players that the red gas puts people to sleep and causes nightmares, of course. Plus, another interesting side note is that if we are getting PTSD about Huggy in nightmares, that should also mean there could be some nightmares for characters like Mommy Longlegs, or maybe we already fought off that demon. The next and much more important question I want to ask is, what is the deal with Kissy Missy and Poppy Playtime in Chapter 3, and what is their role going to be? Because as of right now, we have seen the two working together with us on two separate occasions in the game. Once in the first gameplay trailer where we are going up some kind of lift at night, and another time in the final gameplay trailer where we again see them outside of the playcare in the middle of the night working together. And for Kissy Missy, this actually makes total sense, because while in the second chapter we only get a very small glimpse of her in the game station, she was very nice and helped the player then, and we can even see in her own VHS tape released early last year that right before the factory went haywire during the Hour of Joy, she was actually being moved to playcare and was likely where she actually lived. So I can imagine she's going to be our main guide and be the friendliest player, because in every one of her encounters she's extremely passive and has done nothing but help us in the game, which should be the same here. But the person I'm really worried about is our partner over here, Poppy, who at the end of Chapter 2 famously betrayed us by dragging us to playcare in the first place on the train, just to once again be working with us in the new chapter, and this already gives me a ton of red flags. Because as we learned in Chapter 2, we know Poppy is extremely manipulative. She tricked us into going down into the game station to fight Mommy Longlegs, all just so she could drag us to the playcare again and fight for her once more. In fact, in the first gameplay trailer, she even says the prototype has to die for this, for everything, giving us her motive that she dragged us to playcare with the goal of getting us to kill him for a reason I can only speculate on. Case in point, Poppy has been seen to constantly manipulate the player into doing things things throughout the entire game. And now that we see her working with Kissy Missy, one of the most passive and friendly characters in the game, I wonder if she could also be manipulating her. This combined with the fact that we only ever see the characters in the dark, which I assume will be near the end of the game where a big final scene will happen, and that one of the developers in the Poppy Discord, when asked about what happens to Kissy in the chapter, replied with this extremely worrying gif, really has me worried for what could happen to Kissy in the game. Is she going to die? Could she fight against us? I don't exactly know, but all these signs are pointing to something big happening to her, as much as I hate to say it. And so I'm gonna stop here and pray that I'm wrong, but I guess we'll see. The last and most important question I have about this chapter is, who is this brand new character we see in the final trailer? Are they someone new, returning? What is the deal? Well, judge from the fact that as the lights flicker and the new character runs towards us, we can theorize that they are some type of weeping angel based character, a reference to the Doctor Who character who can only move when not being looked at. And this matters because the devs before the trailer drop told us there was a new secret character who worked like a Doctor Who character, the Weeping Angel, and was a female, which all matches up and gives us the gender of this character confirmed to be a girl. And this girl in question, also based on her silhouette, has a dress of some sorts and even some weird things sticking out on top of her, which we touch upon in a moment. But most importantly, we could see she is in the science hallway of the school part of Playcare, giving me the theory that she could be the teacher of the school. Reason being, all of the bigger bodies per the Bigger Bodies initiative in some way were meant to have a purpose around the factory. Mommy Longlegs took care of the children in the game station, Huggy Wuggy guarded for intruders, Catnap put the kids to sleep, and so on, meaning this character had to have some type of purpose hanging around the school. Again, likely being some kind of teacher. But as for what kind of creature this thing is, this is where it gets pretty difficult. See, in previous videos, I theorized the new mystery character before the trailer would be a bird character and was extremely confident in that theory. But now that we see the character, they appear to be much more humanoid, which sort of throws that theory out of the window. However, I still have a couple theories on what they could be, with my first one being it's a butterfly. Because going back to her silhouette, we could still see this weird curled up thing on top of her head that looks to be some kind of antenna. Now, I can't really think of any animals with curled antennas or horns like that except for, well, sheep. But what's interesting is in many cartoon drawings, characters like butterflies and other bugs are often depicted with these same curly type ears. And in Playtime Co's own art style, scrapped characters like Cassie Cutie Pillar have very similar designs. So at least in my opinion, I think it's a pretty good theory to suggest that this character could be some type of butterfly or bug-like design, especially since they are in the science hallway where learning about bugs is commonplace. Or if not that, going to my second theory, looking back at the silhouette, we can again see that this character is very humanoid and is wearing a big dress. So it could also be some type of humanoid doll like Poppy, and the antennas could be just bows or hair ties. I don't know how confident I am in either of these theories, they're extremely hard to guess, but for now, I'm locking in my answer of it being some kind of bug or a humanoid doll. However, comment down below what you think. I'm gonna live stream the game the moment it comes out, so make sure to subscribe and see you guys there.